Alright, partner.
Alright.
Keep on rolling, baby. You know what time it is.
You are mine now. You belong to me. Today we're going to play a new fun game.
Hello and welcome to the Twin Peaks podcast. My name is Dan.
My name's Nicole.
And this is a movie-based podcast where we talk about two films based on a theme. This week our theme is office-based movies and we're going to be discussing All the President's Men and Sorry to Bother You. After that we'll announce our theme choice for the next episode. And then the final section is Stitch Up, where last time, two tosses on the bounce. I lost the last toss. I had to watch Pinocchio's Revenge.
Thank God for that. Thank God.
Baby Jesus,
I could not watch another friggin' Stitch Up film this week.
You've done enough, to be fair. You've put the work into Stitch Up for a while. It was about time that I watched something. So I did. I had to watch something. And I'll talk about that at the end of the show. Before we get to any of that fun and games, the first section we just call Anything Goes, which means that we talk about whatever we want.
This time last week was my best friend's 30th birthday, and I snuck into her house early in the morning because cheeky of them, they don't lock their door. So I did a little knock, and no one reacted at 7:30 in the morning. I was like, okay, and walked in, dropped off some donuts, had a little message on it, and then I walked out, and then my workplace is not far from her place. And I was like, I'm not going to say anything. I'll wait for her to message me. And about an hour and a half later, she's like, did you come over last night? I go, well, I may have dropped something off this morning. And she called me. She goes, that was so nice. She goes, I couldn't think of anyone else who would have made me donuts and left me a message like that. She really appreciated that. And then we had a party on Saturday, and it was good to see our friends. And two of my mates came up to me, and he's like, "Oh, so I've been listening to your podcast," and I was a little bit thrown back by it.
Oh no!
I was like, now I know how Dan feels when, I bugged him for like about a week or so to give me the title of the podcast back when you were doing it with Albert.
Oh yeah.
And he was quoting certain things. I was like, oh shit, like he's really been listening. So maybe just to see if they're actually listening, I'm going to give a shout out to Paolo and Ash and their housemates Jai and Megan, and I'm just going to see if they say anything. But
is it a little test? Is it a little test to see if they really listen? And what's going to happen if they don't? Are they going to feel you're off? They're not going to get any donuts next time. That's what's going to happen.
No, they can go get fucked. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, it's a bit unpleasant, mate.
They're lovely. Actually, so the deal was, he's like, yeah, I'll listen to the podcast and I've been meaning to sign up for volunteering for his workplace. And when he said that he started listening, I was like, oh, okay. I really need to. I'm like, I know I've been so busy on the last job and now I actually have time. And he's like, I'm going to just text you all weekend until you do it. And I did it on Sunday.
Did you?
Yeah. I was like, I sent him a screenshot. I was like, signed up. Now you guys have to contact me for more paperwork. So yeah, that's all I've been up to. What about you, mate? Awesome. What have you been up to?
Well, I was checking the download stats on the podcast the other day, and I saw our downloads went up 100% by one download. So I wondered who was listening. So that's good.
Thank you, listeners.
Thank you. It's your friends, isn't it? It's your mates.
Oh yeah, true.
I keep getting emails from Chartable actually, and every week they email me and say the email's titled "Check your new chart position on the Australian podcast chart," and every week I click on it and it just says out. It's like kicking the balls every week. It's like they email you just to tell you you're rubbish.
You're failing.
Yeah. It's like working back in a corporate environment again.
Yeah.
But what I've been up to, not too much. Same old, watching films, I'm redoing my CV again. And I was just trying to spend my time wisely, doing those things, applying for jobs, working on a podcast. Sarah has an app on her telephone called Duolingo. I don't know if you've ever used it, languages.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've never heard of it. I've used the language app in the past, but this was quite a few years ago, and it's not quite as refined as it is now. And Sarah's been doing Spanish for I don't know, she's got like a 500-day streak or something where she's been doing it every day.
Yeah.
So I'm redoing French. So I'm going through French again. I mean, 2 weeks in, minimum of sort of 10 minutes a day, and gives you scores, and you can see your scores going up. And because I'm friends with Sarah on there now, I can see how long she's been practicing. She can see how long I've been practicing. So like, if my little circle is below hers, I'm like, fucking right. Like 5 to midnight, laying in bed, I'm like laying there, right, I'll go get it up past Sarah's. But it's a good way to motivate you. Well, it is for me anyway.
Maybe I should join along.
What language would you do?
I was learning Spanish before I came back over here. I was actually going to classes on Sundays. Yeah. I did that for a few months. I've completely lost it. But yeah, maybe I should. Do you pay for Duolingo? You do, don't you?
You can do. It's like many apps. There's a free version and then there's a paid version. So the free version just has ads in it and stuff, and you only get, I think, 5 lives, 5 hearts. This has turned into an advert for Duolingo, isn't it? So if anyone from Duolingo is listening, yes, we would love some sponsorship. We can get a free Plus account on Duolingo, and I'm knocking the mic all over
that
the
would be great. Yes, please do.
I'll tell you what, I'll send you a link, because I might get like one of those things, you know, when you refer a friend and they're like, oh, we'll put a $5 credit in your account. I might get that. I might get some free French words.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'll send you a link. Sure. I'll send you a link. So, films.
Films, yeah. This is what the podcast is about. It's talking about films, isn't it?
This is what it's all about. You've been watching much?
TV special? Yeah, we'll call it a TV special. It's called Funny How. I think it was a 5-part series about live comedy, and each episode was slightly different. So the first episode was about failing on stage and bombing. Bombing is the term. And talking to comedians about, you know, how they've bombed and going to different comedy places all around the States. Have you ever heard of Christian comedians?
I knew that some Christians were comedians. What do you mean? Like, very specifically, their set is centered around Christianity?
Well, it's more, I think it's more that it's clean. There's no swearing. There's no, you know.
Rubbish, then.
It's all clean and simple. I thought, as a joke, if we ever do a comedy episode, and we would have to be both in the same country as each other, maybe the homework could be
get a plane ticket over to England.
Well, that, and then one of us has to do some stand-up comedy.
Oh, no way. What, as an intro, you mean?
Yeah. And go to a comedy lounge and do like a 5-minute stint on stage or something. I mean, Mark from Movie Drone, he's pretty funny. I do love his dad jokes at the end of each episode.
Are you saying then that you're just going to go to a stage and do a stand-up gig and steal all of Mark's jokes?
No. Or he could come up with me.
Me?
No, Mark.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, don't get me involved. Do it. I'm all for this. I want to see Nicole and Mark's double act stand-up show.
Mark will fucking when he hears this, he'll be like, there is no fucking way that's going to happen. Or Steve will be like, challenge accepted.
I think you should do it. All you've got to do is wait for the pandemic to be over, get a plane ticket over to England, find a stand-up comedy venue that will let you on stage for 5 minutes or so, and then record it and then get it edited and not many hoops to jump through. No,
not at all. I think you have to also book yourself in, unless you go to what are they called, like an improv night. I think on those type of
like
nights,
an open mic type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You could just literally go up and be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna tell you some comedy stuff."
I think that's how every comedian opens their own set. I'm gonna tell you some comedy stuff.
I'm gonna give you some comedy, guys.
Laughy joke time. You know, sometimes when you're talking to someone and you think, oh, I've just thought of a job that you would have been perfect at. You should have been one of those people that goes into the crowds before a comedy show or a music gig or something, and they get the crowd all excited. They go, come on, clap your hands. Oh, you know, to get them all riled up. You can just be like, we're going to tell you some comedy stuff. Have we even talked about films yet?
I'll speak about a comedy film that I watched, which was Coming to America 2.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen this?
No, I've seen the original and was aware that this was in development for the longest time, this film. It feels like 20 years they were trying to get this made. But no, I must admit, like, the first one is not a classic for me. I thought it was fine when I was a kid. Not really seen it since. So I wasn't that invested in it.
Don't bother. It's like, I remember when I was younger, I didn't mind the first Charlie's Angels, and then they did a second one like a couple of years later, and the second one was such like, I'm like, this is the exact same shit, just another like slightly different version of it, and that's what they did with Coming to America too. Because I'm pretty sure I've watched Coming to America the original so many times when I was younger, and like thought it was pretty funny. I was gonna watch it just to get a bit of nostalgia, but I didn't have enough time. I might give it a go, see if I still like it like I did when I was younger. But yeah, the second one, it's okay. It's not amazing.
Well, I've not heard anyone say it was terrible. I've not heard anyone say it was really good. The best I think I've heard is average. All right. That's just not enough to get me to watch a film that I just wasn't that invested in the first place. So I'll probably get round to it one day, but I'm in no hurry. I've got enough kind of stuff to watch with the podcast and that. But anyway, that's me complaining. So not great then.
No, not great.
Okay.
But I also I watched some stand-up comedy from Celia Piccola. She's I think I'll consider her Australian. She's on a fair few Aussie TV dramas, and I watched her gig on Amazon on Sunday, and her stand up. So it's Celia Piccola All Talk. It's really funny.
Yeah.
I would recommend watching that.
To the YouTubes.
To the YouTubes. Oh, I went to Pentridge again.
You went to the prison again.
I went to the prison again, and I watched. I'm going to say it's a Korean film. It is based in the US, but it is 90% in Korean, and it's called Minari. So it's about this Korean family who have obviously moved over from Korea, and they've been living in the States for a while, and they buy this massive block of land to farm their own Korean vegetables for the Korean market.
Zucchinis.
Of zucchinis. Oh, by the way, zucchinis is what, Dan?
Blah, blah, blah,
Is
blah,
it
blah, 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 blah.
It's a vegetable, guys. So I corrected Dan.
Moving on.
Moving on from fruit talk and vegetable talk. But the film was quite good. If we ever do Korean cinema, potentially would be on the list.
Okay.
And the last thing I watched was The Graduate.
The Graduate with Dustin Hoffman.
Yes, the Hoffman.
Is that because we watched All the President's Men with Dustin Hoffman?
That is correct.
You wanted to watch a Dustin Hoffman film, what isn't Outbreak?
Which doesn't involve him sitting in an office all day.
Doing
an interview.
zero. Yeah, just sitting there smoking a fag and typing on the typewriter. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So you watched The Graduate. I've not seen The Graduate. It's one of those that I probably should have seen, but I haven't. So how was it?
I was expecting more from it, I guess, because, you know, The Graduate is a classic.
Yeah.
The first, like, half an hour or so, I was a bit like, what's the point of this film? And it was literally just a story of, you know, him hooking up with Mrs. Robinson, and then a situation. Well, I don't want to spoil it because I feel like you want to watch it.
I'm not in a hurry to watch that. A bit like Coming to America 2. Coming to America 2. Coming to America, but the number 2, not the word 2.
Numero. How do you say 2 in French?
Duh. I'm going to send you this Duolingo link.
Anyway, that's enough about movies for me. What have you been watching?
Oh, what I've been watching. So I kicked off the week since we last recorded by watching Doctor Strange. I enjoy that quite a lot.
Oh yeah.
I think it's definitely an upper tier Marvel film. It's funnier than I remember. The effects are great. Benedict Cumberbatch's American accent is not great, but I tend to forget about it after a while. Sticking with Marvel, I've been watching a couple of Marvel films lately for reasons which might become clear in a few episodes' time. I watched Thor Ragnarok and haven't seen that for a while. It's maybe my third or fourth time watching it, and it's fucking hilarious. It makes me die. It's so good.
I think you need to recommend me what like Marvel films I should watch because I haven't watched too many of them. I want to watch Captain Marvel.
Okay. I enjoy all of the Marvel films in general. Some are weaker than others. Your Iron Man 2s, your Thor 2s, that sort of thing. There are a couple that you could probably watch separate for anything else. Have you seen Thor Ragnarok?
No.
Okay, I would
Right,
I would recommend watching Thor Ragnarok because, well, it's very funny. It's a Taika Waititi film who we enjoy. We talked about Hunt for the Wilder People
Yes.
last year, didn't we? It was one of my favourite
We did.
filmmakers and humans in general, and it's very much his type of humour. So it's if you know what you're sort of getting with a Taika Waititi film, and that's like a perfect fusion of his humour and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's right up my street. I'd recommend giving that one a watch and see how you get on. See how you get on with that one, because that's you know, there's something more to that. Most of the Marvel films, they're sort of action adventure comic book movies with a little bit of humour. This is more comedy than anything else. You still got your superhero stuff in there and people with capes and flying hammers and all of that stuff, but it's just a bit funnier, and there's some really good casting choices and some great dialogue. And then I'm going to skip over a few of the other films I watched. I'm up to 75 in total now, but I'm going to skip right over to number 69. Oh, this was not on purpose. I'm skipping to number 69 in my watch list, completely by accident. I was around Sarah's at the weekend and we watched a film called Brittany Runs a Marathon. Easy watch.
Oh yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was good. I had quite a good time with it. I thought it was decent.
Yeah.
It's labelled as romance on Prime, but I wouldn't really say it's romance. It's not your typical kind of rom-com affair. It's I think it's a bit more than that. I thought it was all right, mate. I quite liked that, and it's not the sort of film that I would have picked.
When I first watched it, I was like, it kind of reminded me of you because you love your runs.
Yeah, I like runs.
But I was like, I don't know if I recommend this film to you, and you'll be like, well, that was disappointing. But I'm glad that you thought it was all right. So
yeah,
very good.
I'm going to skip past another couple of films, and I'm going to go to my number 75. And I watched this last night because it was, and if you're listening to this, you'll get an idea of how far ahead we record our episodes. But yesterday it was Kurt Russell's 70th birthday, and I did an Instagram post, and while I was trying to find pictures of Kurt Russell to post on the gram, I found a good one of him in Tombstone, and I thought I'd never seen it, so I decided to give that a watch last night to celebrate Mr. Russell's 70th birthday, and it's really good. I'm surprised I've not seen it before. There's some really good gunplay in it. It's Kurt Russell, Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, Val Kilmer. Chuck Norris is not in it.
Oh, what a shame.
They should have put Chuck Norris in it, really, shouldn't they? Really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. Might be one for the collection, maybe. We'll see. But that was on the Star app, and I've been sort of desperate to watch it.
Oh, cool.
And then that's about it, mate. So I think that's all the films that I've got to talk about, really, to be honest. I watched a few more, but they're the most interesting ones. Are you ready to move on to the next part, which I'm going to rename Phase 2 because of Marvel.
Oh.
It's called Phase 2 now. It's no longer called Section 2. So it'll now be called Phase 2 for as long as I remember, which will be one episode.
Yeah. I'll keep on reminding you.
Yeah. Ba, 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 ba. Phase 2. Anyway, so Phase 2, office-based movies. We're going to be talking about Sorry to Bother You and All the President's Men. As this was my choice of topic, it's my turn to do the topic intro. So I've got kind of a quiz for you, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a job title, and it's a normal job title, but it's redone in like a unconventional way. Does that make sense to you? Because like listening back to it in my head, it doesn't make any sense.
It kind of does. This is like, what does Chandler do for a living? And it's some fucking confusing thing, but it's really basic.
Yes, you got it. That's exactly right. There are no Chandler-based job titles in here, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and you're right, mate. So I've got 6, and I'm going to start with number 1 because that's what most people would do.
Okay.
Beverage dissemination officer. What is that? What's a beverage dissemination officer? What do they do?
Beverage dissemination officer.
Yeah.
I mean, are they... okay, hold on. But before I give you an answer, are these all office-based jobs?
No.
Okay.
They're not. They're just jobs from a page that I found on Google.
Okay. Can you say that one more time for me?
Nicole, what does a beverage dissemination officer do?
Do they distill beverages?
They may not distill the beverages, but they may pass them to people and ask for money.
Oh, they're a bartender.
They're a bartender! Yeah.
That's a bit too fucking fancy to call them that.
I must admit, that was probably the easiest one. I'm not sure how we're going to get on with the rest of them. Right, we'll see. We'll see how we get on. So, you got that. Did you get that right or wrong? You got it wrong, didn't you? Wrong.
I got it
X.
wrong. I got a second go.
Question number 2. Right, job title. Tell me what this is. A chick sexer.
Oh, I know what a chick sexer is. You check out chickens to see if they're a boy or a girl, and if it's a boy, it goes into a white. No, it goes into a blue thing, and the female chickens go to lay eggs. Is that what a chick sexer is?
That was a very
Person that
detailed
does
description. Yeah, all you really needed to tell me is you check the sex of a chicken.
You know why I know this is because I watched
wanna know.
Minari.
Right.
And that was the job that they were doing
No way.
in between doing the farm work. Yeah,
They were chick
that is
sexers.
so funny. They were chick sexers.
There you go. Well, you got that one. Wow.
Yeah.
That's the one I was not expecting you to get. Good old Minari. Who says film doesn't teach you stuff? Chick sexer. Right. Question number 3. You right there? Do you want to get a glass of water?
I'm alright. Yeah, I'm good. Chick sexer. Yep. Next one.
50% so far. So, question number 3. Digital overlord.
Digital overlord.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Fuck. Digital overlord. Someone that works in tech.
Yeah.
Is that too broad? That's too broad.
It's quite broad, but it's yeah, I mean, digital.
Do they build computers?
Kind of. No, they don't build computers. No, they don't build anything physical.
Okay. They do coding.
Well, yeah, that's pretty close. Very specifically, what would you code?
Internet
Coding. Internet coding. Close enough. Website manager.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Oh, God.
Yeah.
I sound like such a knob.
Do you know what I picture that to be? Is, you know, when you go onto a website and then a little box pops up and it's like, would you like any help today? And it's like Tara or something that's asked you a question. How can I help you?
I'll say didn't get that one.
Never mind. 3
Never
more to go
mind.
and all to play for. Question number 4. Retail Jedi. Retail Jedi.
Oh, what could that be? Something to do with retail, maybe.
What gives you that idea?
I'll bet. Is this really easy?
Yeah.
If you know it.
It's really easy.
Retail. Is it just a manager for retail?
Well, it's a shop assistant.
Oh,
What did you say? Shop manager?
yeah. They manage the retail Jedis. They're retail Yodas, aren't they? They would be retail Yodas.
I suppose they would be, yeah. The managers are retail Yodas and the Jedis are yeah. I can see your logic there. Oh, fuck it, we'll give you a tick.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get the next one, so we'll just give you a tick.
Let's see about that, Dad. Let's see about that.
As Nicole rolls up her sleeves and starts to look very aggressive. Okay, job title number 5. Problem Wrangler.
Problem solver.
No.
Problem wrangler. He wrangles problems.
It's someone who wrangles problems. So if you had a problem, what would you like? I guess it depends on what sort of problem it was. But say the problem was a thought process or something that you wanted to get off your chest.
Oh, a therapist.
Yeah.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
A problem wrangler.
I know.
Brilliant. If I ever need a therapist, I'm just going to tell my friends, oh, I just went to go see my problem wrangler the other day. A therapist. Brilliant.
Therapist. All right, so 3 out of 5. Pretty good in the end. All right, then last one then. Question number 6. And this is weird. Chief chatter. If you were a chief chatter, what might you do for a living? You love a chatter. You're chief at it.
Someone that loves to have a bit of a chat.
Bit of a chin wag.
Chief chatter. Someone that loves to have a bit of a chin wag. A telemarketer?
Nailed it.
Fuck no. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Telemarketer. Bang on. Oh, so you got...
chick sexter.
A chick sexer. Yeah, you got that right. You got retail Jedi, problem wrangler, and chief chatter. So you got 4. Is that right? Yeah, you didn't get the digital overlord. I don't know. Fuck it. Let's just say you got 5 out of 6.
Ooh.
Pretty good.
Not bad.
Pretty good, mate. Pretty good. That was a weird quiz, to be fair, and there was no multiple choice.
I did like it.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and that's me done now for another couple of weeks, because next time it's your choice and you're doing the intro, so I get a rest.
I thought the quiz was going to be what's in my pencil case or something, and then you were going to be holding something, and I would have to figure out what you were holding in your hand, and I'd be like, it's a rubber, and you're like, no, it's a ruler.
Well, if I'd have thought of it, I definitely would have done that. That sounds like fun. We should do another work-based one, and we'll save that intro for that one.
I'll use it for my next intro, even though it's got nothing to do with the topic.
What am I holding? Is it a missile? Anyway, that might be a clue. It'd be a bit of a giveaway, wouldn't it? Is it a submarine?
It is a bazooka.
Oh, should we get on to talking about our films then?
Yeah, we should.
Let's do it. The first one that I've written my notes up in best on is Sorry to Bother You. I'd quite like to start with that. What do you reckon?
Yeah, let's start with that. What the fuck happened in this?
What the fuck happened in Sorry to I'm so glad that you chose this one.
That's all I'm going to say.
I'm so happy that you chose it. Well, I recently saw it. I think I explained last time that I recently saw it and I really, really liked it. And it just so happened to fit in with our office-based movie theme. And I picked it as part of my 3, and I was really hoping you was going to choose it, and you did. And I was desperate to hear what your take on it was, because it was a very strange film.
Very strange.
But for me, in the best possible way. It was written and directed by a gentleman what is called Boots Riley. Budget was 3.2 million. The box office was 18.3 million. And it stars Lakeith Stanfield as Cassius, Tessa Thompson as Detroit, and Stephen Ewan as Squeeze. And I'm going to read you a quick synopsis now.
Go on.
In an alternate present-day version of Oakland, black telemarketer Cassius Green discovers a magical key to professional success which propels him into a macabre universe. Pretty simple synopsis, doesn't give anything away, and I will say as well that... Did you watch the trailer before you watched the film, or did you go in dry?
I did.
Oh, we watched it together, didn't we?
Yeah, on the Pix episode. And I'm just going to let the listeners know... Whatever you watch in the trailer is nothing like what you watch in the actual movie.
That's exactly what I was about to say, because it's
completely different.
The trailer seemed to lean quite heavily on the teleportation stuff. It looked like there was going to be some him moving around from location to location, but that was about a 30-second part of the film, and it really had no major significance to the rest of the film. And I thought I really like it when a film does that. It kind of gives you the vibe of the film. This is roughly what the themes are and this is what it's about, but it completely misdirects you on the content, and I love that. I thought that was great. But yeah, I spoiled it already, but I thought this film was really, really good. I had a lot of fun with this. I've watched it twice now in like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and I enjoyed it just as much the second time round.
So Cassius, so he is broke and needs to get a job, and he gets an interview for this telemarketing job. Actually, the interview for this job was pretty funny. He's like, oh yeah, I've had this much experience and I've got this he puts a random trophy for something, and the guy's like, well, this is all a load of shit because your mate out there who actually has got the job was your reference. And he's like, oh fuck, so I did job. He goes, no, I don't honestly give a shit. He goes, I'm very impressed by you trying to impress me with all of this bullshit that you do. So he gets the telemarketing job, and The bizarre thing was, so he's trying to get people to buy stuff, obviously. And because he's a person of color, no one is buying stuff. And then the guy next to him says, "Oh, if you put your white voice on, then you'll be able to sell shit." And I was just like, that's real. I mean, it might be true. And that's really horrible to think that may be true, but it was a very bizarre thing for this film.
It was a
to
strange
show.
one. It was a strange one.
Yeah.
That was definitely one of the bizarre things about this film. Okay, so when I first watched it, I thought it was fucking hilarious because the white voices that they get are so fucking white as well. Like, you couldn't find any whiter voices if you tried. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was very funny. And I've been listening to a few interviews with Boots O'Reilly, and there's this thing, I don't know if you've heard of it, and I've only just heard of it recently on my Sorry to Bother You rabbit hole, but there's this thing called, I think it's called coding or code talk, or I really should have written this term down, but there's a very specific thing that sometimes a person of colour might need to adjust their language so that someone who is not a person of colour can understand what they're saying, because I don't know, because ignorance, or because just not a language barrier, but cultural barrier. Yeah, right. He touches on that, but it seems to me that his take on it was less of the racial issue in that specific thing. There are definitely themes of racism and cultural stereotypes running throughout this film, but that's a commentary on you're going to work and you're just putting on a fake voice. It doesn't have to necessarily be a white voice, but you're going to have to change your values. You're going to have to change your ideals. If you're going to go out into the work environment and join the rat race and try and climb a career ladder, you're going to have to become a different person and do some shit that you probably ain't comfortable with and screw some people over. So that was kind of his reasoning for doing that. It's kind of just saying, right, okay, I'm a different person now. Because Danny Glover also explains, doesn't he? He's like, talk like you don't need this sale. Talk like you've never been fired. Like, that's what they want to hear. That's what they want to sound like. So that was more his take on it. But yeah, it works. It works because it's a gag, and it works for the racial reasons that you mentioned, and it works for the cultural, to do with workplace and what you present in a workplace on a daily basis. So I found that with a lot of things in this film, the decisions that were made, the creative decisions that were made, they had lots of different, felt like they had lots of different meanings. I'll give you an example, like Cassius, and I saw this on a YouTube video, so it's not my own thought, but I did notice it in the film. Cassius gets some petrol or some gas, depending on where you are in the world, and he goes 40 on pump 6 or whatever it was, and you assume, $40, but it's 40 cents. He puts down 40 cents. Yeah. And that that tells you that number one, it tells you that he's skint. Number two, it tells you that he doesn't necessarily follow a narrative that everybody else follows. And it's a bit quirky. It's a quirky thing. And it makes you laugh. It just works on a few different levels. And there are so many things in this film. Tessa Thompson, Lakeith Stanfield, Stephen Ewan, all brilliant. Danny Glover, I would say, he's the guy that suggests to Cassius to do the white voice. And I love that line. He goes, "Do your white voice." I'm not talking about Will Smith white. I fucking lost my shit when he said that. Might be my favourite. There's a tie that it might be my favourite line in the film, but also there's one that's pretty close, and there's a line of dialogue because there's this promise, isn't there? If you do well in a job, we might make you a power caller, which is obviously a metaphor for the rat race and a promise of promotion. When Cassius gets promoted to become a power caller, he goes to his lift, and that corporate lady is there, and she notices that he's wearing a pink shirt, and she says, "Oh, pink shirts are really sexy. 35% of men that wear pink shirts are more likely to start a franchise." And I was like, "What? What was that?"
And then you went into your cupboard and went to see how many pink shirts that you've got. You got that tropical pink shirt that you used to wear to work occasionally.
Are you talking about the one where you all told me that it was going to be Hawaiian Friday, and I came in a Hawaiian shirt, and no other fucker was wearing a Hawaiian shirt? It was just me. But So sorry to bother you. So I mean, we've got to mention the end, haven't we? It goes without saying with these these reviews, the film is in the title of our podcast episode, so I think it's a safe assumption that we're going to spoil the fuck out of it. But skipping to the end,
Yeah.
Cassius he becomes a power caller, and he's working for a company that is this worry-free company that's been advertised throughout the film on television. He's working for them.
That's right.
What it turns out is worry-free is just another form of slavery. He gets closer to the top, and he starts to rub shoulders with a guy called Steve Lift, who is played by Armie Hammer. They're at a party, and they do some cocaine. He does a rap, which was, I would say, actually, do you know what?
Yeah.
That's the part that made me feel most uncomfortable. I thought it was very funny, and this whole film is a satire, so it's a comedy.
Yeah.
You're meant to laugh at it. So when Steve Lift asks Cassius, "You know how to rap, don't you?" I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And Cassius is like, "No, not really," and he basically gets forced into going up and doing a little rap. And I'm obviously not going to repeat what he said in the rap,
Yeah.
but he repeats it, and the crowd starts going mad because they are. I feel like that was a criticism, going back to the satire thing. I feel like that's a criticism of people fetishizing black culture, and they may not necessarily see it as bad. But you know, it's still, you know. Anyway, I don't want to go down this. We did a serious one last week. I don't want to do another serious one this week.
We can.
Nah, I can't. I want to do silly.
So he's at this party, and then him and Armie Hammer go into a room, and they end up, you know, trying to talk business. And he sniffs a bunch of cocaine. He's like, "Oh, hold on, I really need a piss. I need to go to the bathroom." And what he thinks is going into the bathroom is like, I guess like maybe dungeon's not the right word, but a room where there's these so-called horses. They originally were humans and have now been changed into horses to be used as workers. And he fucking freaks out. And then he sees his job description from Armie Hammer, and it shows like them snorting some coke, and then all of a sudden they turn into horses. And he's like, "What? I've just sniffed this coke. Is it like, am I?" He goes, "Mate, like, I would never do that to you without you approving to wanting to do this job." He goes, "It's just coke. I swear to God, it's just coke." And then right at the end, you know, all things are going well for him, and then all of a sudden he just turns into a fucking horse.
They call them equisapiens, I think, don't they? Equisapiens, I think, is the name
yeah,
for them.
they do. Yeah.
Lakeith Stanfield, I thought, delivered a really off-key, memorable performance. I thought he was really good. Like, he was just a bit off. He was just a bit odd. Like, it was just felt different. And that's the only way I can think of to describe it, really. And Tessa Thompson, she always delivers. She's always great. And she sort of serves to be like to ground the Cassius character. She's also got a lot of empathy. And did you notice her earrings in the film? There were quite a few close-ups of the earrings. One said "murder, murder, murder, kill, kill, kill," and then there was earrings with a penis on, and then there was another set with someone in an electric chair. And I didn't quite get what those references were. The only thing I could think of were that this character is the only one that's actually telling the truth. That's what I got from it. Like, what she wears on her earrings is like an expression of what's actually going on in the real world, like murder. Death row, sex. But I could be completely wrong on that. I really love this, mate. I love the criticism of all things corporate. I loved how when they're at the bar, Danny Glover, he's like, "I'm celebrating, I'm going to order the good drink." And he orders the good whiskey, but the good whiskey is just a smaller version of the regular whiskey. I love that. I love that. It's like just paying more for shit that you don't need to. But yeah, I loved it, mate. I'm gonna give this one. I immediately gave it, I think, 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, which is a 9. So it's a 9-star film for me. It's just got everything. It's funny. It's got a lot to say.
Wow.
And I think I'll be able to rewatch this quite a lot.
Would I sound terrible if I give this a 7.5?
Yeah, you're a horrible human being. Disgusting. No, mate. It's what you know. I liked it because it made me laugh primarily, and I think I'll be able to watch it a lot.
It made me laugh, and I think I literally texted you not too long after I watched this film, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, but no, 7.5. That's a reasonable score, mate. Should we move on to the other one?
Yeah, more serious
The
one.
more serious one, yeah, definitely. So the next film that we watched was All the President's Men, which came out in 1976. The screenplay was by William Goldman, and it was directed by Alan J. Pakula. Stars Robert Redford as Bob Woodward and Dustin Hoffman as Carl Bernstein. And there are a couple of others in there, but they're your main two. The budget was $8.5 million, and the box office was $70.6 million. And the synopsis reads... Wow, this is a long synopsis.
Is the plot.
The tagline, yeah, it's the whole fucking plot. The tagline is the most devastating detective story of this century, and the synopsis reads: in the run-up to the 1972 elections, Washington Post reporter Bob Woodward covers what seems to be a minor break-in at the Democratic Party national headquarters. He is surprised to find top lawyers already on a defense case, and a discovery of names and addresses of Republican fund organizers on the accused further arouses his suspicions. After the editor of the Post runs with the story and assigns Woodward and Bernstein to it, they find the trail leading higher and higher in the Republican Party and eventually into the White House itself.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, journalists versus Nixon. It's about Watergate, mate.
For anyone that...
And
I was going to say, for anyone that doesn't know the Watergate scandal, do you want to share what it is?
yeah, it was a scandal that happened and they called it Watergate.
Fair enough.
Honestly, right, after having watched this film,
Yeah.
I'm no clearer on what Watergate actually is.
I'm glad that I'm not the only one. Thank God.
I know that Nixon did some naughty things, and there was some very naughty bugging and tapping of Democratic offices done by the Republicans, allegedly. I'll just throw it in there because I don't know what's proven and what's not. So just cover yourself.
And a lot of money as well involved, and money spread around.
There was some shady. There was some fucking shady shit going on. Basically, I'll be honest with you. I've tried to look into the Watergate thing a few times over my life because there's another film. My favourite Ron Howard film is a film called Frost Nixon, and that is about David Frost interviewing Richard Nixon a few years after the Watergate scandal. And after I watched this film, I watched that again because I love it. I watch it once a year probably. But I still don't really know the details of what fucking Watergate is. They basically were doing some shady shit. Yeah. And this film is about the journalists that try to expose that shady shit. And the very first thing that I wrote down was, how 70s is this film going to be? And I was not disappointed because, mate, this film was loaded with sideburns and suede jackets and phrases like cockamamie. Oh, it was glorious. It was the most 70s thing I've ever seen, I think. But it's basically about Woodward and Bernstein and them trying to expose this scandal that's been going on. And the whole way through the film, the media, all the TVs you see, the media is portraying like a false narrative of the president and, you know, basically denying everything that happened, and at the same time these journalists are talking to people are not really meant to speak to them, and there's obviously some shady shit going on, some cover-ups, and there's lots of meetings in car parks and on park benches, and Robert Redford smoking a fag and then sitting on a park bench going, oh, but I need to know more, and someone else going, but I can't tell you more, and him going, yes, but I need to know more, and the other person going, all right then. It was basically 2.5 hours of that, and I was quite bored by this film.
I did a little bit of research before I came online as well. And there's like a few smart things about this film. So the starting and the ending is this piece of paper. And it's the first scene is quite abrupt when I think they're typing the date that they got caught. And right at the end, so like in most true stories, there's always a little bit of a blurb of like what happened, and it's a typewriter that tells you what's been happening from every month. I found it really hard to read, but yeah, spoiler alert, Nixon ends up retiring. No,
he steps down. I think.
Yeah. A few other things. There's a lot of wide shots within this film, making it look like people are watching you.
I associate that with 70s films, but yeah.
Okay.
Like, it's more like a voyeuristic, like you're watching what's going on in the whole area. Yeah. Someone's
always watching you. And they used a split diopter focus, so which means that they use like an extra piece of glass on the camera, so then the foreground and background are both in focus. And there was like a couple of scenes where the journalists are on the phone and they're trying to, listen and write information down. And there's also focus on the background where there's people listening into the TV and they're struggling to, hear the information because they've got this distraction in the background.
Yeah.
And as a viewer, you also feel the frustration at the same time. So I thought that was really smart on like little scenes throughout the film. And there's heaps of information on this film. There's like notes everywhere, and then you have to figure out what you want to take in. What's the most important information to take in? Yeah, I think it was a bit too long. Comparing it to, because have you seen Spotlight?
Yes.
Also investigation story.
Yeah.
Something completely different, but also based on a scandal. But I found that movie I was really intrigued with that movie. With this movie, I think it just dragged on a bit too long. That's all I'm going to say.
That's kind of how I feel as well. I didn't notice the split diopter stuff, I must admit. But that does make sense as well when you're talking about how the background was in focus along with the foreground, because it was important that they showed the narrative that the media were perpetuating during that time. And it was like, Nixon is great and he's brilliant, but yet the papers were telling a different story. So the fact that they were kind of mixing up those two things is pretty genius, really, because that's exactly what happens in the real world. You've got these opposing beliefs and you've got to try and pick what the most useful information is. There's so much garbage out there and you've got to think, all right, where's this information come from? What source does it come from? And you've really got to do the work. So that is very clever, actually, mate, and I didn't notice that. So this film was definitely, I mean, it was a well-made film, don't get me wrong, really good, all-time class actors in there, Redford and Hoffman. It was just a personal thing for me. It just sort of dragged a little bit. Maybe there's more in there to unpack and have a look at, and one day perhaps I'll revisit it, but I don't fancy it anytime soon, just because maybe it's because I'm a product of the YouTube generation and I can only focus for 10 minutes at a time without picking up my telephone. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
Maybe this film would be more suited to like a cinema experience where you just sit there and you're not doing anything else. Like all you've got to do is concentrate on the film. Maybe I'd get more from it there, or destroy my phone, or lock my phone in concrete and dump it into the North Sea. That might work as well. Sometimes I feel like doing that anyway. I'm just going to wrap it up then. So, final thoughts on All the President's Men. Just to reiterate, really, I basically thought it was too long, a bit dull. Some really, really good stuff in there, artistically speaking. Some good creative choices in terms of camera work and that sort of thing. Would like to have had a bit more of a score. It was very slow and purposeful. Not quite my cup of tea. I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. However, I did enjoy, and this is not to do with really my rating of the film, but more over the two films. I felt like there was a running theme over the two films that we picked, and that was a false narrative perpetuated by media. In both cases, the media was going on in the background. Sometimes it was more obvious than others, but there was always something going on with the media who were portraying something that was going on that wasn't going on. 6 out of 10 for me, mate. What's your thoughts on it?
I'm going to give this a 6.5 because it's a good film, but I don't think I would rewatch it anytime soon. It's just too long. It was way too long.
Yeah, listen, if I'm going to go and watch a film about Watergate, it's going to be Frost Nixon. I fucking love Frost Nixon. I think it's great, and I'd much sooner revisit that than watch All the President's Men again. However, it's a very good film. It's well made, and I would recommend it to anybody to watch it. It probably just wasn't quite in keeping with my taste. We're done. Office-based movies.
We're done.
Should we announce what theme we're going to pick for next week's episode, mate? Because we're doing a picks episode next time, and it's back to you, and you're picking a theme.
Yes,
so what we going to go for?
We are going for war-based films.
Good God. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Good God.
Say it
War.
again.
Hoo-ha. Good God. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. War. Good God. No, I'm not. I'm going to... Sorry.
Are we back on time loop again? Are we back to the time loop episode?
So you're picking war. And we've never done war before, which is surprising. War is not a genre I tend to gravitate towards all that often. But there are a few gems. So tune in next week to hear what we're going to pick. Last section then, Phase 3, Stitch Up.
Phase 3.
As I briefly explained earlier, 2 weeks on the bounce we've had to toss to get the result because the last 2 Instagram polls have been a tie. And last time we tossed, I lost, and you chose for me a film called Pinocchio's Revenge. And I've got to admit, I went on a bit of a journey with Pinocchio's Revenge because I sat down to watch it. I was trying to. I thought it was on YouTube. It wasn't on YouTube. Well, it was, but it was a weird commentary track, and it wasn't the actual film.
Oh god, that's boring.
Amazon Prime, Netflix, VPN, and I could not find it anywhere. So I watched Atlantic Rim, Resurrectum, as I'm going to call it from this point forward. So I had a journey trying to find Pinocchio's Revenge, and then I had a journey watching Atlantic Rim Resurrectum.
You're welcome.
Now I know how it feels. So I've sat down to watch. I'm fully aware of Pacific Rim. I've seen Pacific Rim 2. You watched the first Atlantic Rim a couple of episodes ago because you had to watch it. So I got an idea. It's all the same. Giant fighty robots fights giant fighty insect weird kaiju creatures. So I know what it's about. So you kind of expect as a bare minimum like good fight scenes. There's not many things there are not many boxes that a film like this needs to tick, and it ticked very few, if any. But I'll start at the beginning. So the very first scene, my very first note reads, "This might be the movie with the most cuts I've ever seen." 1 minute and 40 seconds in, and I'm starting to feel nauseous. So there was a boat scene at the start of the film. There was a man on a boat, and then there was a man on a walkie-talkie, and they were both talking. But it was the most mundane conversation. Like, the man on the boat was like, "I'm going to this part on the grid now." And the man, the walkie-talkie, was like, "Yes." But it would cut between every single word. And I was like, what's going on? I was like going left and right. There were so many cuts. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. So this guy on the boat, I don't know why he's out there because he's a boat human. And the kaiju monsters come up from the sea, and they come up, and in front of them there's this like warship, and the kaiju just flicks it, one flick of the hand, and the boat just explodes. And so the kaijus are back. They're back. You thought that they were dead in the first film? They're not. They're back, and they're fucking badder than ever, mate. And when I say badder, I don't mean that they're harder or like they're tougher. I mean, this film is badder. I don't know. I wonder which one's worse. I wonder out of the two, which one's the worst film.
I mean, feel free to watch the first one and then let me know which one you prefer.
I might not do that. So anyway, so the kaiju are back. So what do they need to do? Don't get the team that killed the kaiju in the last one, because they might be the experts. They might be. But just don't, because we couldn't afford them for the sequel for some reason. What we're going to do is we're going to get the creator of the robot suits while on a run. We're going to get him, and he's going to be part of our new crack team for fighting these kaiju. So they get the inventor of these suits, and it's these important government officials that pick him up. And we know that they're important government officials because the music is like ba 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 ba. And the music is a total rip-off of Pacific Rim. It's very similar, but it ain't that bad. The music is one of the better things I would say about this film, although it was used oddly in some odd places. For instance, I feel like a music like that is very much for like a tooling up scene, a montage, a training like thing or action, whereas they would use it where a couple of characters were just walking from the hallway to the lab. They'll just be like, "Oh, hello, we're just walking along." Ba, 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 ba. And it's like, do, 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 do. They're just walking like that. And I don't know how well that's going to translate on an audio medium. But it was very odd. It was very disconcerting. But the music was good. The music was good in itself, just not applied very well, in my opinion. Rough CGI, man. I mean,
bad.
They must have just reused a lot of stuff from the first one. I don't know. It was like a PS2. It was pretty bad. I've written down a few quotes. I really enjoyed when they kept saying reverse plasma membranes. What does that mean? Reverse plasma membranes? I've got no idea.
The opposite of forward plasma membranes, which I still don't understand.
Yeah, you cracked it, mate. Yeah. No, it's nonsense. But I love all those nonsense terms that they use in these silly action films. Like, there's another. Well, this is not nonsense. It's more coherent. But they kept using engage boosters, and I every time they said the words engage boosters, all I could think about is that that's going to be my new catchphrase. Whenever I do anything, it's going to be like, oh, Dan, are you ready to go out? It's like, yeah, engage boosters. Dan, how's your soup, Dan? Engage boosters. I think that's going to just be my standard answer to everything.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Put it on a t-shirt. What, engage boosters? I like it. Let's do it. Let's do a tea public after we've recorded.
I'll make one and send it to you.
Do it.
Yeah.
We'll upload it and buy some merch. But I really want the reverse plasma membranes. That's the one I want. Atlantic Rim 2. Oh, this was what I was going to ask you. So in this one, I think it was the first or second fight, they managed to kill one of the big monsters, one of the kaiju, and it died. It collapsed on the floor. And then a few minutes later, it exploded, and lots of little baby kaiju came out, and they started running all over the gaff. Did that happen in the first one?
No.
There you go. So they've upped the stakes in the sequel. One of the super army soldiers, he decides to get into a robot, and he has a fight, and he gets a bit injured, and this acid comes through, and he gets acid spilt on his leg, and he's like, oh, I need to get the first aid kit. Like, oh, right, okay. So there's acid burning through your leg, and you're going to reach into the glove box for a little first aid kit, little blue first aid kit like you'd find in your Fiat Panda. And I was praying to the baby Jesus that he was going to put a bandage over it, and then that was how they were going to get over that part. But he did one better. He pulled out a hypodermic needle and jammed it into his wound.
What?
And then he was fine. It's like, oh, all right. So if you've got acid on your leg, all you need to do is get a needle from a first aid kit and jam it into your leg. It's fine. But that's not even the worst thing, right? Because a few minutes later, the character dies. The character sacrifices himself by flying into one of the giant monster kaijus. So why did he need to repair his leg? He didn't even need to do it. They should have just taken it out. It was a shit idea. Remove it from the screen. You don't need to. He's not going to be... and you saw the first film, so they're all just sitting down in a chair, looking through an eyepiece and pretending to control a giant robot. So it's not like he's got to run around or do anything. Just don't fix his leg. Just leave it. Just say that he's injured. If he's going to die 5 minutes afterwards, who cares? It amused me. It amused me at the time when he was reaching for the first aid kit. I was praying that he was going to put a bandage on it, and when he didn't and he put a needle in there, I thought that was pretty funny. And then when he died afterwards, I thought it was even more funny, because it's like, that was all fucking pointless. When I first started it, I thought that there might be a bit of gold in here, you know, like Birdemic, like Mega Piranha, where it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. There's some fun to be had, but not really. It didn't. It was only an hour and 26 minutes long, but it dragged. It dragged for me, and it weren't great. I guess I'm going to give it a 1.5 out of 10. Can you remember what you gave Atlantic Rim number 1? Atlantic Rim, was it?
I think I gave it a 1.
Well, on that basis then, Atlantic Rim Resurrectum is the superior Atlantic Rim film. And I feel like I'm saying Atlantic Rim so often now that whenever I talk about Pacific Rim, I'm just going to say Atlantic Rim. People are going to be like, you mean Pacific Rim? I feel like I know more about the Atlantic Rim films now than I do about the Pacific Rim films now, which is... It's not great. It's done. And I can rest.
Right.
Well, hopefully I can rest, depending on what the results are for the next stitch up.
Go on.
You chose for me Jurassic School, and I chose for you Troll 2. And I put this poll... Whenever I put the poll on, a little part of me hopes that you're going to forget. But you never do, and I'm always disappointed, because you always leave it a little while as well. You never vote straight away, you always leave it a while. I know, I keep an eye on, mate. I keep an eye on what's going on. The results. So there were 18 votes in total.
Oh, shit.
And it was another draw. The third time in a row.
No.
Yes, another draw.
Fuck off.
9 votes each. Another tie. For the third time in a row, we've got a toss. We've got a toss for the result. I have a coin here, and it's a commemorative soccer coin, or football, if you talk proper. We're going to do heads or tails. So the head side is Andy Cole, and the tail side is the 3 Lions. So you just need to pick if you want heads or if you want tails.
I'm going to go with tails.
You're going to go with tails?
Yeah.
The Lions. Lions, I'm watching Jurassic School. Andy Cole's, you're watching Troll 2. And the result of today's Stitch Up is it has landed on Andy Cole, which means you are watching Troll 2.
Oh,
I'm very sorry.
the one with Justin Timberlake, right?
What?
You know, is it Anna Kendricks?
It's definitely not that one. I don't think even Justin Timberlake was born when this film came out. All right, cool. So I get another rest then. Brilliant. Shall we do the films for the next poll? Have you got something ready that you want to choose for the next one?
So, Dan, you've every couple of weeks when we do our picks episode, you put films on the list. So last week was Leading Women, and I think you meant to put Legally Blonde on the list, but you put Legally Blondes on the list. So I'm choosing Legally Blondes with an S at the end.
All right.
For you. What's the star rating? It's a 1.7.
It's fucking filthy tactics you're employing. It's disgusting.
You put it on a list, and that's how I've chosen.
You couldn't have picked I definitely put Legally Blonde and Legally Blonde 2 in there, so you couldn't have picked one of those instead.
No.
All right.
What are you choosing for me, Dan?
For some reason, we've gone from we go through phases of choosing themes. Sometimes there'll be a couple of weeks where we're choosing shark movies and giant fish movies. We've recently done robots, and for some reason you've started picking dinosaur films for me. So I was watching a documentary the other day about Roger Corman's Fantastic Four movie that never came out in the 90s, and they mentioned a film, also a Roger Corman film, called Carnosaur. So I'm giving you a film called Carnosaur. So the next poll then is going to be Legally Blondes for me versus Carnosaur for you. And is it your turn for the poll this time, mate? Because I did the last one, so it must be back to you now, right?
It is back to me. Yeah.
Where are you going to put it?
I'm going to put it on my Instagram, which is at Chikanika. And you can check out my other Instagram, which is Nika Creative.
Awesome. If you want to take part in the polls generally, you can follow Nicole at those places, or follow me at flick.face. Or if you would just want to catch up with the show, we're at Twin Peaks Pod on Instagram. We're also on Twitter at Twin Peaks Pod. And if you want to support the show, we're at kofi.com/Twin Peaks Podcast. We've got an email address, twinpeakspod@gmail.com. Also, we're on YouTube. And I feel like, how many other different things can we say at the end? I want to get this sign-off bit to be like 4 minutes long. So it's eventually just going to be a list of all the places where we've got our name.
On a billboard on Chapel Street. On a train heading to Southend.
Yeah, sometimes there'll just be a man sitting on a train with a Twin Peaks Podcast sticker on his forehead, sticking his thumbs up, going, "Listen to the show, listen to the show." That's me. If you see that, that's me, just doing my marketing. Yeah, so if you've made it this far, thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to tune in next week to hear our war picks, and we'll catch up with you then. Bye-bye.
See you later, and goodbye to Mr. Norris.